Listen carefully. In a world that feeds on reaction, silence is power. The loudest one in the room is rarely the strongest. It's the one who doesn't need to speak, who doesn't need to prove, who doesn't need to react. This is the art of silent power, a discipline of calm control, composure under fire, and strategy over emotion. When you master this, no one can manipulate you. No one can break your peace. You don't win by shouting, you win by staying still when others crumble. This audiobook will teach you how. Chapter 1. Stop reacting. Start observing. Every time you react, you give away power. Every time you pause, you take it back. That's the difference between the weak and the strong. The weak explode. The strong observe. The weak get emotional. The strong get strategic. You have a choice. Right now, in every situation, you always have a choice. To react or to observe. And that choice determines everything. When you react, you lose control. You say things you don't mean. You do things you regret. You give your energy to someone who didn't earn it. When you observe, you stay centered. You stay calm. You see the situation for what it really is, not what your emotions want it to be. That's the key. Observation gives you distance. And distance gives you power. In life, people will try to provoke you. They'll test your limits. They'll push your buttons. Because most people don't know how to control themselves, and they want to pull you down to their level. Don't fall for it. When someone tries to get a reaction out of you, remember this truth. They want your energy. They feed off your emotion. They win when you lose control. So what do? You stop feeding them. You stop reacting. You start observing. Observation isn't weakness. It's control in its purest form. It's choosing to see instead of explode. It's choosing to understand instead of attack. When you observe, you give your mind time to analyze. You let your body calm down. You let logic return. You stop the storm before it begins. You stop the spiral before it starts. That's what mental strength looks like. Not loud. Not emotional. Not explosive. Controlled. Collected. Let's get real. You've lost control before. We all have. You reacted too fast. You said too much. You made it worse. And then you felt regret. You felt drained. You felt weak. That's what reaction does. It empties you. But observation fills you. When you stay calm, you protect your energy. You keep your dignity. You keep your focus. Remember this. Every emotional reaction is a leak of power. And every moment of observation is a gain of control. Say it again in your mind. Every reaction leaks power. Every observation gains control. That's the law of composure. The world doesn't reward emotional people. It rewards disciplined people. Because discipline is stability. And stability is power. You can't be trusted to lead if you can't lead yourself. You can't lead yourself if you can't master your emotions. This is where self-respect begins, with restraint. You earn respect not by being loud, but by being consistent. You earn respect not by reacting, but by responding with precision. So how do you train this? How do you become an observer instead of a reactor? Start small. When something annoys you, pause. When someone disrespects you, pause. When plans fall apart, pause. Just 1 second. Just one breath. Just one silent moment between stimulus and response. That second is everything. That breath is where your power lives. Because in that space, you make a decision. To respond like your old self, or your higher self. To explode, or to evolve. You have a choice. Boys, say it to yourself. Pause before reacting. Observe before responding. Control before speaking. That's your new mantra. Repeat it until it's automatic. Until your silence becomes your instinct. Because silence is not weakness, it's strategy. When you stay silent, people reveal themselves. They show their insecurity. They show their impatience. They show their lack of control. You just watch. You learn. You adapt. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their validation to stay composed. You are in command. Quietly, invisibly, completely. Here's a truth most people never learn. The person who reacts first loses. Because they've surrendered their control to emotion. They've handed over the steering wheel to impulse. You can't drive your life when you're reacting to every bump in the road. You can only drive when your hands are steady, when your eyes are focused, when your mind is still. That's what observation does. It steadies you. It clears the noise. And in that clarity, your power grows. Real strength isn't measured by volume. It's measured by restraint. It's measured by composure when everyone else is losing theirs. When you're calm under pressure, people feel it. They trust it. They follow it. Because calm energy is rare. It's magnetic. That's the secret. Calm is contagious. So is chaos. You choose which one you spread. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to respond to every insult. You don't have to prove your worth in every conversation. The most powerful move is often no move at all. Silence. Observation. Composure. Let them think you're quiet. Let them think you're passive. Let them underestimate you. Because when you're silent, you're gathering data. You're studying patterns. You're planning your next step with precision. That's the key. You don't waste energy reacting. You invest it in strategy. From today on, practice this. The next time someone pushes your buttons, imagine your emotions as waves. They rise. They crash. But they always settle if you don't feed them. Be the still water beneath the surface. Unshakable. You can't control what people say or do, but you can control your state. That's your real power. Not the power to control others, but the power to control yourself. When you stop reacting, you become unpredictable. And when you're unpredictable, you're untouchable. No one can read you. No one can pull you. No one can play you. You stop being a puppet. You become the observer, and the observer always wins. So remember, pause before reacting. Observe before responding. Control before speaking. That's not just advice, it's a discipline. It's the foundation of silent power. And it starts right now. Every situation you face this week is your training ground. Every trigger is a test. Every pause is a victory. You have a choice. You always have a choice. To react or to rise above. And when you choose observation, you choose mastery. You just learned the first step to silent power, control through observation. You stopped bleeding energy. You started gaining clarity. But observation is only the beginning. Because once you control your reactions, you're ready for the next level, mastering the emotions themselves. You learn to stay still. Now it's time to go deeper. Because the real war isn't outside, it's inside. Chapter 2. Emotion is the enemy of strategy. Emotion is powerful, but uncontrolled emotion is poison. It clouds judgment. It distorts timing. It makes strong people act weak. You can have the best plan in the world, but if you can't control your emotions, the plan means nothing. Because emotion destroys strategy. That's the truth. And most people never learn it. The moment you let anger, pride, or fear take over, you stop thinking clearly. You stop seeing the situation for what it is. You start chasing feelings instead of facts. That's how people lose control. That's how leaders lose focus. That's how power slips away. You have to remember this. Emotion is temporary. Consequences are not. The great minds understood this. The Stoics, the warriors, the true leaders, they learned how to feel without falling. They didn't deny emotion. They mastered it. They felt anger, but they didn't act on it. They felt fear, but they moved forward anyway. They felt pain, but they kept their composure. They lived by one rule. Feel it, but don't feed it. Say that again in your mind. Feel it, but don't feed it. That's the difference between reaction and restraint, between chaos and control. Look at history. The greatest victories were won by calm minds in chaotic moments. The greatest defeats came from emotion disguised as courage. A commander who reacts in anger sends soldiers into disaster. A traitor who panics loses everything. A parent who yells teaches fear, not respect. Emotion destroys precision. Precision wins wars, inner and outer. So the question is simple. Do you want to win, or do you want to feel? You can't do both. When you let emotion run your life, you live like a leaf in the wind. You move wherever the storm blows. You have no anchor, no center. But when you master emotion, you become the storm. You move deliberately. You strike when it counts. You wait when it's wise. That's strategy. And strategy is power. Here's what most people get wrong. They think emotional control means coldness. It doesn't. It means clarity. It means seeing through the fog of impulse. It means staying intelligent when others get irrational. You don't shut emotion down, you guide it. You direct it like a weapon. Because emotion is energy. And energy, when controlled, creates momentum. Let's make this practical. You're angry. Someone disrespected you. Your ego wants to strike back, to prove something. So, feel it, but don't feed it. Breathe. Observe. Calculate. Ask yourself, if I react now, do I win or do I lose? 9 times out of 10 you lose. Because reaction gives your opponent control. You think you're asserting power. You're actually surrendering it. You have a choice. Every time emotion rises, you have a choice. To act with discipline or to act with impulse. Impulse is easy. Discipline is rare. But discipline builds power. Impulse destroys it. That's the key. Think of your mind as a battlefield. Emotion is noise. Strategy is signal. The more you feed emotion, the louder the noise gets. Until you can't hear your own reason. You have to turn the volume down. You have to clear the channel. Only then can you think clearly. Only then can you make the right move. Because the right move always comes from clarity, never chaos. Real strength isn't about feeling nothing. It's about feeling deeply without being controlled by it. You're human. Emotions will come. You'll feel anger. You'll feel jealousy. You'll feel fear. But you don't have to act on any of them. You can sit with them. You can observe them like clouds passing overhead. That's mastery, not suppression, but understanding. You can't fight what you don't understand. You can't master what you deny. So you look your emotions in the eye and say, I see you. But you don't lead me. That's power. The truth is, emotion will always test you when things matter most. In the deal. In the fight. In the relationship. When the stakes are high, emotion rises fast. That's when average minds break. And disciplined minds rise. Because emotion can't coexist with focus. One must dominate the other. Which one will it be? You have a choice. If you want to play the long game, you have to act like a strategist, not a reactor. A strategist plays the board, not the last move. A strategist sees the next 10 steps, not the last insult. So when someone tries to trigger you, remember, they're trying to pull you into their game. Don't play it. Stay calm. Stay focused. Stay above it. That's how you win quietly. Here's how you train it. Each day, find one emotional moment and delay your reaction. Count to 5. Take one breath. Observe the feeling rise and fade. That's it. That's how you rewire control. Because the brain learns through repetition. Every time you pause, you teach your mind to obey discipline instead of emotion. Every pause strengthens your control. And every controlled moment strengthens your identity. You're not a slave to emotion. You're the master of it. Say this to yourself until it becomes your instinct. Feel it, but don't feed it. Emotion is the enemy of strategy. Calm minds create strong lives. Repeat it daily, because repetition builds reflex, and reflex builds mastery. Soon, calm becomes automatic. Silence becomes strength. Emotion becomes information, not instruction. That's the transformation. So remember, emotion is not your friend in moments of decision. Emotion is noise. Emotion is bait. Emotion is the trap that keeps powerful people small. Don't take the bait. Don't let emotion steer your moves. Let purpose guide you. When you act with emotion, you survive. When you act with strategy, you win. That's the difference. That's the discipline. Control emotion, and you control timing. Control timing, and you control outcomes. Control outcomes, and you control your life. That's the chain of power. It starts inside you. So the next time emotion rises, remember, you can feel it. You can acknowledge it. But you will not feed it. Because emotion is the enemy of strategy. And strategy is the path to silent power. You've learned the second discipline, mastering emotion before it masters you. You're no longer ruled by reaction. You're guided by strategy. You felt it, but you didn't feed it. Now that you've contained the storm inside, you're ready for the next evolution of control, using silence as your weapon. Chapter 3: The Strength of Silence. Silence is not weakness. It's calculation. It's the pause between moves. The stillness before impact. The discipline that separates noise from power. Every pause builds tension. Every quiet moment gives you the upper hand. Because silence isn't empty, it's loaded with control. The world worships loudness. Everyone wants to speak, to prove, to argue, to be seen. But the more they talk, the more they reveal. Their insecurity, their lack of control, their emotional chaos. Silence reveals nothing. And what can't be read, can't be used. That's the key. When you master silence, you become unpredictable. When you're unpredictable, you become untouchable. In every confrontation, the loudest one loses. The person who reacts first exposes first. They show their weakness. They show their fear. But the one who stays calm, who listens, watches, waits, holds the power. When others argue loudly, the one who stays silent gains authority. Because silence commands attention. It makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to fill the space you control. You don't win every battle by speaking. You win by making others reveal themselves. That's strategy. That's restraint. You have to understand this. Silence is a mirror. When you stay quiet, people project onto you. They show you who they really are. They tell you everything you need to know. Because they can't stand not knowing what you're thinking. You observe. You gather data. You keep your power contained. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. You have a choice. Every conversation, every conflict, every test. You can speak to be heard, or stay silent to understand. Speaking feeds ego. Silence feeds power. Ego wants to be seen. Power wants to be in control. You don't need to prove yourself with words. You prove yourself with composure, with discipline, with presence. Because true power doesn't announce itself, it radiates. Think about it. The strongest leaders, the sharpest minds, the calmest warriors, they don't rush to respond. They don't talk to fill silence. They wait. They observe. They measure every word before they speak. When they finally do speak, people listen. Because their silence has built gravity. And gravity demands respect. That's the strength of silence. It makes your words matter. Most people talk because they're afraid of silence. They fear what might surface in the stillness. They fear losing control of the conversation. But silence is control. Silence is command. When you stay silent, you're not losing control, you're taking it. You're saying, I move when I decide, not when I'm provoked. You don't need their permission to stay quiet. You don't need their validation to stay calm. You're not there to react, you're there to observe. That's how the disciplined mind works. Silence also builds mystery. And mystery builds respect. When people can't read you, they can't label you. When they can't label you, they can't limit you. The quiet person becomes the question everyone wants to answer. They draw attention by not seeking it. They create impact by doing less. You don't need to chase attention when silence makes them come to you. Here's a truth. The more you talk, the more chances you give others to use your words against you. Every extra sentence is a risk. Every unnecessary word is ammunition for someone else's advantage. But silence? Silence can't be misquoted. It can't be twisted. It can't be used against you. That's why silence is the ultimate defense. Let's make this real. You're in an argument. Someone's shouting, trying to trigger you. They want a reaction. They want to pull you into their chaos. But you don't react. You stay calm. You breathe. You let them drain their own energy while you conserve yours. You speak only when necessary. Slow, measured, deliberate. And when you finally respond, your words cut through the noise like a blade. Because silence made them sharp. That's power. Not the power to out-yell, but to outweight. Not the power to dominate the room with volume, but to own it with presence. You have to train this. It won't come naturally in a world that rewards noise. But every time you resist the urge to speak, you strengthen your control. Every time you wait before responding, you sharpen your strategy. Every time you embrace silence, you expand your presence. Silence is a muscle. And like every muscle, it grows with use. Start small. In the next conversation, say less. In the next disagreement, wait longer. In the next moment of tension, observe more. You'll notice something powerful. People start leaning in. They start wondering what you're thinking. They start respecting your stillness. That's how influence works. Quiet, steady, deliberate. Don't mistake silence for passivity. Silence is not surrender. Silence is preparation. It's calculation. It's patience in motion. You're not avoiding conflict. You're controlling it. You're not backing down. You're setting the stage. Because silence makes your presence heavier. It turns your stillness into strategy. When you speak less, you make space for impact. When you move less, you make every move matter. That's the paradox of power. The quieter you are, the louder your influence becomes. In silence, you also hear yourself. You start to notice your thoughts. You become aware of your emotions before they control you. You create space between impulse and action. That space, that pause, is where wisdom lives. You can't learn from noise. You can't hear your intuition through chaos. You can only hear it in silence. So the more comfortable you become with quiet, the more confident you become in who you are. Because silence reveals truth, internal and external. Say this to yourself until it becomes second nature. Silence is strength. Stillness is power. Restraint is dominance. You don't win by reacting. You win by observing. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to know everything. That's how the silent mind wins, not through noise, but through control. So remember this law. Every word you don't say saves energy. Every silence you hold builds presence. Every pause you take makes you stronger. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to argue to be right. You don't need to fight to prove your strength. Because your silence already speaks louder than all of it. From this point forward, use silence as your weapon. Let others reveal themselves. Let them rush. Let them talk. You stay calm. You stay deliberate. You stay in control. Because power isn't in noise, it's in presence. You've learned how to control emotion. Now you've learned how to control sound. And soon, you'll learn how to control what matters most, your attachment. You've mastered silence. Now it's time to learn detachment. Chapter 4. Detachment is a superpower. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care intelligently. It means you think clearly. You move precisely. You act with discipline, not emotion. You're no longer ruled by reaction. You're guided by reason. Repeat this until it becomes part of you. Detached doesn't mean distant. It means deliberate. Most people misunderstand detachment. They think it's cold. They think it's heartless. They think it means giving up or not feeling. But detachment isn't about disconnection. It's about direction. It's choosing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. It's the ability to step back and see the game from above, instead of being trapped inside the chaos. Emotional attachment clouds vision. It makes you chase, cling, and overreact. You start to confuse movement with progress. You start to confuse attachment with love and obsession with passion. But detachment is freedom. It gives you space to see truth without distortion. When you're detached, you no longer beg for outcomes. You build them. You don't need everything to go your way. You simply adapt to what comes your way. That's what makes detachment powerful. Think of it like a chess player. The novice reacts to every move with emotion, panic, excitement, frustration. The master stays still, detached, observing, calculating. Because when emotion takes over, strategy dies. But when detachment leads, clarity lives. That's how you win, not by being cold, but by being clear. You have to understand, attachment blinds you. It makes you fear loss. And fear of loss makes you weak. You start making decisions not from logic, but from desperation. You cling to relationships that drain you. You hold on to goals that no longer serve you. You chase validation that doesn't matter, all because you're afraid to let go. But detachment gives you strength to release, to walk away without collapsing, to say, "This is not for me," and mean it. That's power, quiet, grounded power. Detachment is not escape. It's not avoiding life. It's living with awareness. Saying, "I can give my best effort, but I don't need the world to validate it." You do your part. You give your energy, and you let the outcome unfold. That's emotional maturity. That's self-mastery. Repeat this with me. Detached doesn't mean distant. It means deliberate. When you're detached, you move on purpose. You speak on purpose. You love on purpose. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop chasing. You start choosing. You stop forcing. You start flowing. That's the shift from emotional chaos to conscious control. When you detach, people might not understand you. They'll call you cold. They'll call you different. They'll say you've changed. And they're right, you have. You've changed from being reactive to being reflective. From being attached to being aware. From being needy to being neutral. Neutrality is not weakness. It's wisdom. It means you can see both sides, light and shadow, loss and gain, without losing yourself. Detachment sharpens focus. Because when you stop obsessing over results, you start mastering the process. You stop chasing applause. You start chasing improvement. You stop needing to win every time. You start learning every time. And that's how you grow, not through control, but through clarity. In business, detachment lets you make decisions based on data, not drama. In relationships, it lets you love without losing your identity. In personal growth, it keeps you grounded when success or failure tries to shake you. You become stable, centered, consistent. Nothing owns you anymore. Not success, not failure, not approval, not rejection. Because when you detach, Nothing outside you controls the inside of you. Here's what detachment sounds like in the real world. I'll try my best, but I won't force the outcome. I care deeply, but I won't lose myself in the process. I love you, but I also love myself enough to walk away if I must. That's power. That's presence. That's peace. It doesn't mean you stop feeling. You still feel everything. You just don't let feelings make your choices for you. You can cry, but still stay composed. You can love, but still keep your standards. You can fail, but still stay grounded. Because your identity isn't attached to what happens. It's anchored to who you are. That's emotional freedom, to feel everything, but be controlled by nothing. Repeat this truth. Detached doesn't mean distant. It means deliberate. Detachment gives you the space to act with precision. You don't rush. You don't chase. You move only when it's time. And because you're not emotionally tangled, you see what others miss. You recognize patterns faster. You spot manipulation earlier. You detect weakness instantly. That's the hidden advantage of detachment. Clarity. You begin to realize you can love someone without needing to possess them. You can pursue success without fearing failure. You can engage deeply without losing your balance. That's the art of staying in the world without being consumed by it. You become like water, fluid, adaptable, calm. Nothing can break you, because nothing can hold you. Here's how you build detachment. Pause before reacting. Give space between the trigger and your response. That space is your power. Observe your emotions. Don't fight them, just watch them. Emotions lose control when they're seen clearly. Detach from results. Focus on effort, not outcome. You control the action, not the aftermath. Let go of what drains you. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. Anchor in self-worth. Know that who you are is not what you achieve, or who accepts you. That's how detachment turns into strength. When you live detached, you live light. No fear of losing. No desperation to prove. No anxiety about control. You walk into every situation knowing, I will handle whatever comes, because nothing owns me. That mindset makes you unstoppable. You don't chase, you attract. You don't react, you adapt. You don't break, you bend. And you always return to center. Remember this. Attachment is heavy. Detachment is freedom. Attachment says, I need this to be happy. Detachment says, I'll be happy no matter what happens. Attachment chains you to outcomes. Detachment releases you to possibilities. And that's when life starts flowing in your favor, because you're no longer fighting against it. So, whenever you feel yourself clinging too tightly, to people, to plans, to expectations, step back, breathe, repeat your mantra. Detached doesn't mean distant. It means deliberate. You still care. You still act. You still give your best. But now you do it from strength, not fear. From calm, not chaos. From power, not panic. That's emotional intelligence at its highest level. That's true mastery. You've learned to control emotion. You've learned the strength of silence. You've learned the freedom of detachment. Next comes the most important transformation, turning control into creation. Because power means nothing if you don't know how to use it. You've become calm. Now it's time to become creative. Chapter 5. Control the face. Command the room. Your face reveals your emotions before your words do. Train it. In tense moments, calm eyes and a neutral tone intimidate chaos. Because the person who controls their expression controls the energy in the room. People read faces before they hear words. They read posture before they listen to tone. They sense energy before they process logic. That means before you ever speak, you've already communicated. So, if your eyes dart around, you signal fear. If your mouth tightens, you signal anxiety. If your expression cracks, You've already given away your state. You've told them what you feel, even when you said nothing. That's why emotional control begins with physical control. Control your face, and you command the room. When you master stillness, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability creates power. People can't read you, so they can't manipulate you. They can't sense your weakness, so they hesitate. Stillness creates authority. That's why warriors train their faces before they train their weapons. That's why negotiators master their expressions before their words. And that's why leaders who stay calm under pressure are followed, even when they say little. Your calm face becomes a mirror. It reflects the emotions of others back at them. When they shout, your stillness exposes their instability. When they panic, your composure magnifies their chaos. You don't need to overpower them, you simply outlast them. And in silence, the loud always lose. Repeat this truth. Calm eyes, neutral tone, unreadable presence. That's your armor. This is not about pretending to be emotionless. It's about mastering the signal you send. Because the world doesn't reward the loudest voice. It rewards the most composed energy. There's a simple exercise for this. Visualize your face as still water. When tension rises, picture your reflection on a calm lake. If someone throws a stone, their words, their anger, their noise, you don't ripple. You remain smooth, serene, unshaken. Because you know, if your surface moves, they win. Control the face. Command the room. Watch powerful people closely. Not the ones who talk endlessly, but the ones who speak sparingly. They listen longer than they speak. They nod slowly. Their eyes are steady, focused, never frantic. That's presence. That's command. When you walk into a room with that energy, everything changes. People lower their tone. They watch your reaction. They adjust to your rhythm. That's power. Silent, invisible, undeniable. Your presence starts with your stillness. Stillness is not weakness. It's control. Control over your impulses. Control over your expressions. Control over how you are perceived. And perception is influence. You don't need to dominate through volume. You dominate through calm certainty. The louder others become, the quieter you get. Because calmness is contagious, and chaos fears calm. You must understand, in moments of tension, everyone looks for stability. They look for the calmest person in the room, and they follow them. That's why control of your face isn't vanity, it's leadership. You don't flinch. You don't smirk. You don't grimace. You remain neutral, centered, deliberate. Because your calm face tells the world, I am in control. And when you look like you're in control, people believe you are. Think about poker players. They call it a poker face for a reason. It's not about lying, it's about staying unpredictable. When you reveal nothing, you force others to reveal everything. They start guessing. They start overthinking. They start losing focus. And that's when you win, not through aggression, but through composure. Apply this in your life. When someone insults you, don't react. When someone challenges you, don't flinch. When someone pressures you, slow down your breathing. Look them in the eyes. Keep your voice steady. Let silence do the work. Because silence is louder than shouting. And stillness is stronger than struggle. This is not suppression. This is strategy. You're not ignoring your emotions. You're redirecting them. You're training your face to become your discipline's mask. A symbol of self-mastery. Because when your face is steady, your mind becomes steady. When your mind is steady, your actions become deliberate. And when your actions are deliberate, your life becomes powerful. That's the chain of control. Behavior. Presence. It all begins with stillness. Repeat this mantra with me. Calm eyes. Neutral tone. Unreadable presence. That's your discipline in action. Practice it in everyday moments, in traffic, in arguments, in discomfort. Train your micro-reactions. Because micro-reactions reveal macro control. The next time someone irritates you, breathe. Relax your jaw. Soften your eyes. Keep your tone level. And watch what happens. Their chaos begins to dissolve. Because they no longer have a reaction to feed on. Chaos needs reaction to survive. You starve it by staying calm. Understand this. Composure intimidates. Stillness dominates. Silence communicates. People can't fight what they can't read. They can't manipulate what they can't trigger. So when you train your face, you're not hiding emotion. You're controlling energy. You're protecting your focus. You're maintaining your authority. You're sending one message. I am not moved. This level of control doesn't appear overnight. It's built through repetition, through practice, through awareness. Each time you resist reacting, you strengthen the muscle of composure. And the stronger that muscle becomes, the less power chaos has over you. You stop matching energy. You start setting it. You stop mirroring emotion. You start mastering it. That's what it means to command a room. So when you walk in slow. When you sit still. When you speak calm. You don't rush. You don't fidget. You don't need to prove anything. Because your stillness already speaks. People feel it before they understand it. And that's how true authority works. It's felt, not forced. Control the face. Command the room. That's your daily practice now. Every situation is a test of composure. Every conversation is a chance to demonstrate control. Every challenge is a mirror, showing you where you still react. The more you master your face, the more you master your fate. Because self-control in expression is self-command in life. And when you can stay calm in chaos, you become unshakable. You've learned to detach from outcomes. Now you've learned to project control through presence. Next, it's time to understand how silence turns into influence. How power grows not from noise, but from restraint. Chapter 6. The Power of Patience. Impatience ruins empires, relationships, and plans. Patience builds them. The person who waits without anxiety holds the true advantage. Because calm timing beats rushed action every time. Most people destroy their progress not because they lack talent, but because they lack patience. They move too fast. They react too soon. They quit too early. They think speed is power, but power is timing, and timing belongs to the patient. Patience is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's knowing that every great move requires build-up. Every masterpiece needs silence before the strike. Every victory is built in quiet waiting. Impatience screams, now. Patience whispers, soon. And soon is always stronger than now. When you're impatient, you force outcomes. You chase before it's time. You push people who aren't ready. You ruin opportunities by trying to speed them up. But patience lets things come to you. It lets the right timing unfold. It gives people room to reveal themselves. It keeps your energy pure, your moves precise, your outcomes aligned. Calm timing beats rushed action every time. You can feel impatience in your body, the tight chest, the racing thoughts, the need to move, to act, to fix. But most of the time, there's nothing to fix, only something to observe. And if you wait long enough, the answer reveals itself. Because clarity grows in stillness, not in haste. Every wise leader, every great strategist, every disciplined mind, they all have one thing in common: patience. They know how to wait. They know how to let others reveal their hand. They know how to stay silent while the impatient self-destruct. That's the real game. Let them move first. Let them show their emotions. Let them exhaust themselves, while you stay still, calm, centered. You conserve energy. You stay ready, because patience is not passive. It's preparation. Think about nature. The tree doesn't grow by rushing. The storm doesn't arrive early. The seasons don't change on command. Everything powerful in nature moves on time. You can't rush a sunrise. You can't force a seed to bloom. You can't demand mastery overnight. Patience is nature's discipline and your greatest weapon. But today's world teaches the opposite. It glorifies instant results. It worships quick success. It sells shortcuts and fast fame. But anything that comes too fast goes just as fast. Because what's built quickly isn't built deeply. And what's not built deeply cannot last. That's why patience is your advantage. When others chase instant validation, you build invisible foundations. When others seek applause, you seek mastery. When others want speed, you want strength. Calm timing beats rushed action every time. Patience doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the right thing at the right time. It means resisting the impulse to force outcomes that aren't ready. It means trusting the process you already started. It means holding your ground when your ego screams for movement. Because movement is meaningless without direction. And direction comes only from stillness. You have to be still long enough to see the pattern. In war, the patient commander wins. In business, the patient investor grows. In relationships, the patient communicator heals. The impulsive strike too soon. The patient strike when it counts. Patience doesn't delay victory. It ensures it. Repeat after me. Calm timing beats rushed action every time. Every time you feel pressure to move, breathe. Every time you want to react, wait. Every time you feel urgency, question it. Ask yourself, is this my timing or the world's? Because most impatience is just noise, the world's rush trying to control your rhythm. You must protect your rhythm, your pace, your timing. That's your power. When you act too soon, you play small. When you wait too long, you lose momentum. But when you act at the right time, everything aligns. Patience helps you sense that moment. Because patience is not delay, it's discernment. It's knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. When to move and when to wait. When to let go and when to hold firm. That's mastery, acting with precision, not pressure. Patience also builds emotional power. It teaches you to stay calm while everything around you spins. It trains your nervous system to handle delay without breaking. It turns waiting into strength. Because if you can wait without anxiety, you can outlast anyone. The impatient person burns out early. The patient one endures until the end. And in the end, endurance always wins. Here's a truth you must remember. Patience doesn't slow success, it strengthens it. The seed that grows slowly has deeper roots. The structure that's built carefully stands longer. The person who moves with timing, not impulse, always ends up ahead. Because fast is fragile, but patient is permanent. Practice patience every day. When you're in traffic, breathe and wait. When you don't get results, stay consistent. When people test you, smile and observe. Every time you wait calmly, you train your power. Every time you hold silence, you sharpen control. Every time you resist the urge to rush, you gain dominance over yourself. That's what patience really is, self-dominance in time. Calm timing beats rushed action every time. You will repeat this line until it becomes instinct. Until your first reaction is no longer haste, but pause. Because patience gives birth to insight. And insight gives birth to precision. And precision gives birth to power. That's how patience becomes your quiet weapon. Invisible but unstoppable. Impatience is noise. Patience is signal. Impatience is chaos. Patience is control. Impatience is fear disguised as urgency. Patience is faith disguised as stillness. That's the difference between those who react and those who reign. You want to reign. You want control. You want power. Then master time. Master your reaction to it. And remember, calm timing beats rushed action every single time. So, as you move forward, carry this discipline with you. When the world rushes, you slow down. When others panic, you stay still. When others demand, you decide. That's how quiet confidence is built. That's how silent power is maintained. Patience is your armor. Patience is your edge. Patience is your proof of mastery. You've learned to control your emotions. You've learned to project calm and lead with stillness. Now it's time to take that patience and turn it into precision. To learn the art of making every move count. Because true power isn't in doing more. It's in doing less with more impact. Chapter 7. Stop explaining yourself. Stop explaining yourself. Stop defending your choices. Stop trying to make people understand who you are or why you do what you do. Because here's the truth. Every time you explain, you give away power. Every time you justify, you hand your confidence to someone else's opinion. And every time you defend, you shrink the authority of your own actions. Weak people explain. Powerful people demonstrate. That's the law. That's the rule of silent power. You don't need to convince anyone of your value, you need to live it. You don't need to explain your plan, you need to execute it. You don't need to prove your worth, you need to embody it. When you explain too much, you are secretly asking for approval. You are asking to be seen, understood, validated. You are saying, please believe me. Please think I'm right. But silent power doesn't need to be believed. It simply is. The strong don't explain because they are focused on what matters, the mission. They don't waste words. They don't chase validation. They let the results speak louder than any speech could. You have to train yourself to hold your energy. Hold your words. Hold your calm. That's the beginning of emotional dominance. When you learn that silence is stronger than speech. That the calm stare is louder than the loud defense. That the person who says less often wins more. Let's be real. Most people explain out of fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being rejected. Fear of being seen as wrong. But the moment you try to explain to everyone, you are proving one thing, that you are not centered. Because truth doesn't need approval. Purpose doesn't need applause. And strength doesn't need to explain itself. The mountain doesn't explain why it stands tall. The lion doesn't explain why it roars. And you don't need to explain why you're moving in silence. You move because it's right for you. You move because it's time. You move because power doesn't need permission. Repeat that. Power doesn't need permission. Stop explaining yourself to people who haven't earned access to your plans. Stop breaking down your goals for people who can't even keep promises to themselves. Stop trying to justify your path to those who have never walked one. The truth is, people will only understand from their level of awareness. And most people's awareness is limited by fear, ego, and comfort. You cannot expect deep understanding from shallow minds. So stop trying. Save your breath. Use your silence. Your silence is sacred. It protects your focus. It protects your peace. It protects your energy. And when you protect your energy, you protect your destiny. When you stop explaining yourself, something powerful happens. You become unpredictable. People can no longer read your emotions. They can no longer predict your next move. They start to wonder. And that's how power is maintained, through mystery, not exposure. The moment you start explaining every thought, every step, every plan, you lose the advantage. You hand over your map to people who might not wish you well. You reveal your strategy before it's executed. That's not strength, that's insecurity disguised as transparency. True leaders know when to speak and when to stay silent. They know when to share and when to protect. They know that not everyone deserves to understand their vision, because real power moves in silence. And silence creates space for clarity, not chaos. Let your results be your reply. Let your growth be your explanation. Let your discipline be your defense. You don't need to say, "I'm working on myself." They'll see it. You don't need to say, "I've changed." Your consistency will prove it. You don't need to say, "I'm focused." Your silence will show it. That's the essence of quiet discipline. The less you talk, the more you show. The more you act, the less you need to explain. Repeat it. Less talk, more truth, more action. Say it again. Less talk, more truth, more action. That's your mantra now. That's how you move from emotional to strategic. Think of every word you speak as currency. Do you spend it wisely or waste it on explanations that change nothing? When you explain yourself, you pay energy to people who cannot refund it. You give them power over your emotions. And that's a bad investment. From now on, speak only when it creates movement. Speak only when it strengthens respect. Speak only when it protects peace. Everything else, silence. The next time someone questions you, pause. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them misunderstand. And when they finish, simply smile and continue your mission. Because silence will say what your explanations never could. That you're not playing for their approval, you're playing for results. And results need no defense. The one who doesn't explain himself becomes untouchable. Because no one can control what they can't predict. No one can manipulate what they can't access. And no one can weaken what refuses to react. That's real control. That's emotional mastery. That's silent power. So from this point on, stop explaining yourself. You owe no explanations for your evolution. You owe no breakdown for your boundaries. You owe no defense for your discipline. Just live it. Just show it. Just be it. Because people will forget your words. But they will never forget your calm. They will never forget your silence. And they will never forget the power that came from it. You've learned to stop reacting. You've learned to stop explaining. Now let's go deeper. Because silence isn't just about control. It's about strategy. In the next chapter, we'll learn how to use silence to lead, not just to protect. Chapter 8. Emotional minimalism. Simplify your emotional life. Fewer reactions. Fewer attachments. Fewer outbursts. Because here's the truth. Every unnecessary emotion is a distraction. Every emotional spike steals focus. And every outburst costs you control. The goal isn't to feel less, it's to feel smart. To feel with purpose. To feel without losing your center. That's emotional minimalism. Minimal emotion. Maximum focus. Maximum peace. You've heard of minimalism in lifestyle. Fewer things, more space, more clarity. Now apply that same principle to your emotions. Fewer emotional impulses. More inner space. More clarity of purpose. Because when your emotional life is cluttered, your mind can't breathe. You're reacting to everything. The noise, the people, the opinions, the chaos. You're emotionally overdrawn, and your focus suffers. But when you declutter your emotions, life becomes calm. Decisions become clean. Your energy goes exactly where it needs to go, and nowhere else. That's power. That's what it means to live with emotional precision. Let's define it clearly. Emotional minimalism is the discipline of not adding emotion where discipline belongs. Repeat that. Don't add emotion where discipline belongs. Say it again. Don't add emotion where discipline belongs. When you face challenges, respond with structure, not emotion. When you're criticized, respond with calm, not defense. When plans fail, respond with adjustment, not frustration. That's how the greats think. That's how soldiers stay alive. That's how leaders stay respected. They feel, but they don't feed the feeling. They acknowledge the emotion, but they don't let it run the show. Here's the secret. Every emotional reaction burns energy. And energy is your most valuable resource. You only have so much in a day. You can't waste it on worry, resentment, or overthinking. You must spend it on movement. Every time you overreact, you're paying with energy that could have built something. Every time you attach too deeply, you're paying with peace that could have kept you clear. Every time you explode, you lose time you could have used to plan, prepare, and progress. Emotion isn't the enemy. Excess emotion is. Think about it like this. A warrior on the battlefield doesn't have time to feel everything. He feels, but he channels. He reacts, but with precision. He hurts, but he moves anyway. That's what makes him effective. That's what keeps him alive. You need the same mindset in everyday life. When chaos hits, when people disappoint you, when life throws storms, don't add emotion where discipline belongs. Adjust. Feelings can visit, but they can't drive. They're passengers, not captains. Emotional minimalism is also about detaching from the unnecessary. You don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to explain every decision you make. You don't need to emotionally invest in things that don't feed your mission. Every time you detach, you create room for focus, room for strategy, room for stillness. And in that stillness, clarity lives. Let's get practical. Here's how you practice emotional minimalism. Pause before reacting. Every time you feel triggered, stop for 5 seconds. That pause is your control button. It interrupts emotion and activates strategy. Label your emotions. Don't become them. Say, I feel anger. Don't say, I am angry. There's a difference. The first one gives you space. The second one traps you. Simplify your inputs. Stop consuming emotional noise, gossip, arguments, negativity. Protect your mind like it's sacred space because it is. The less noise you allow in, the less chaos you'll feel inside. Respond with structure, not emotion. When things go wrong, ask, what's the next move? That question alone pulls you back into focus and out of reaction. These are small disciplines, but they build enormous peace. Here's a paradox. The person who feels less chaos inside doesn't have less emotion. They just know where to place it. They know when to speak, when to act, when to walk away. They conserve energy like a monk, and when they move with force. That's the essence of emotional minimalism, efficient emotion. Not coldness, not numbness, but precision. You're not suppressing emotion, you're refining it. You're saying, I'll feel this, but I won't let it derail me. You're saying, I'll process this, but I'll move forward anyway. That's not weakness, that's maturity. People often mistake emotional control for emptiness. They say, you don't care. But you do care. You just care differently. You care with structure. You care with discipline. You care in a way that builds, not breaks. When others spiral, you stay still. When others chase chaos, you protect peace. When others add emotion, you add precision. And slowly the world learns not to test your calm, because they can't shake it. Here's something to remember. Emotional minimalism isn't about being robotic, it's about being strategic. It's about using your emotions like tools, not letting them use you like a puppet. Because the truth is, emotions are powerful when directed. Anger can drive discipline. Pain can build strength. Frustration can sharpen focus. But only if you channel it. Only if you decide where it goes. Otherwise, it burns everything in its path, including your peace. So today, begin the practice. Declutter your emotional life. Stop reacting to every small thing. Stop attaching to every small win or loss. Stop giving away energy to what doesn't deserve it. Be calm. Be clear. Be deliberate. That's how you build quiet power. That's how you create emotional wealth, peace, clarity, direction. And remember the mantra: don't add emotion where discipline belongs. Say it again. Don't add emotion where discipline belongs. Because when you master that, you stop leaking energy. You stop wasting time. And you start living in complete control. You've learned to simplify your emotions. You've learned to control your focus. Now it's time to go deeper, because control isn't enough. You must build endurance, the ability to stay steady under pressure, to remain calm while others crumble. That's the next level. Chapter 9. The Psychology of Unreadability. When people can't predict you, they can't control you. When they can't read you, they can't manipulate you. Unreadability isn't coldness, it's protection. It's not distance, it's dominance. Because predictable people are easy to control. And in the game of power, predictable is powerless. Most people show too much. They speak before they think. They react before they plan. They reveal emotions before they decide. They think honesty means exposure, but that's not strength. That's vulnerability disguised as openness. The truth is, you can be genuine without being transparent. You can be real without being readable. You can be kind without being predictable. That's the psychology of unreadability. Commanding your presence by controlling your signals. Repeat this mantra. Predictable is powerless. Controlled is commanding. Say it again. Predictable is powerless. Controlled is commanding. That's the foundation of strategic calm. Let's be clear, unreadability doesn't mean you hide who you are. It means you govern what you show. You regulate your emotional visibility like a general guards a battle plan. You speak less. You reveal slower. You time your responses like precision strikes. Because every reaction reveals data, your triggers, your fears, your limits. And the world is full of people who will use that data against you. Unreadability is your firewall. It protects your strategy. It protects your peace. It protects your leverage. Let's look at nature. A predator doesn't reveal its intent before the strike. A master chess player doesn't show emotion after every move. A great leader doesn't announce every plan before it's in motion. Powerful beings move with calm mystery. They know the value of unpredictability. Because predictability is weakness, it lets others anticipate your every move. Unreadability forces others to guess. And when they're guessing, you're controlling. Think about the last time someone tried to provoke you. They said something sharp. They wanted a reaction. A flash of anger, a defensive tone, a visible weakness. If you gave them that reaction, they won. They discovered your trigger. And now they can use it again. But if you stayed calm, if your face stayed neutral, your voice steady, your energy unshaken, you flipped the script. Now they're the ones off balance. Now they're the ones guessing what you're thinking. Now they're the ones uncomfortable. That's power. That's control. That's unreadability. Unreadability isn't just silence, it's presence. It's the stillness that makes people lean in. It's the quiet confidence that says, I know something you don't. It creates gravity. People start respecting you differently. They start choosing words more carefully around you. Because mystery commands respect. You become the person no one can figure out. And that's when you become powerful, when people must wonder about you instead of defining you. Here's the secret behind this psychology. Human beings are addicted to certainty. They crave knowing what you'll do, what you'll say, how you'll react. It gives them comfort. It gives them control. When you remove that predictability, you create tension. And tension creates attention. They can't stop thinking about you. They can't stop trying to decode you. That's why the unreadable are magnetic. Because uncertainty is fascinating. And mystery, when combined with discipline, is irresistible. Unreadability also protects your mental space. When people can't read you, they project their own assumptions. And that's fine. Let them. Because their assumptions can't touch your reality. You don't need to correct them. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to prove anything. That's emotional freedom when you're at peace being misunderstood. Because you're not here to be understood. You're here to move with purpose. Predictable people need validation. Controlled people need only results. Let's talk about communication, how you use unreadability in your presence. Control your tone. Speak slower. Speak lower. Leave pauses in your sentences. Pauses make people listen. Silence between words creates power. Control your expression. Keep your face neutral when others expect a reaction. Don't frown when challenged. Don't smile when provoked. Let your calm eyes do the talking. Control your timing. Don't rush to respond. Let others fill the silence. They always do. The more they speak, the more they reveal. The less you say, the more you learn. That's unreadability in action, not passive, but precise. Every pause, every breath, every silence is a weapon. Unreadability also builds patience. Because you learn not to be ruled by impulse. You learn to observe longer, speak later, move smarter. And over time, people begin to realize they can't move you emotionally. They can't manipulate your response. They can't predict your behavior. You become an emotional fortress, calm on the outside, calculating on the inside. And that kind of presence commands respect. Not through fear, not through noise, through poise. Repeat the mantra again. Predictable is powerless. Controlled is commanding. Say it again, slower this time. Predictable is powerless. Controlled is commanding. Let that phrase burn into your instincts, because that's the foundation of leadership, composure, and influence. When you master unreadability, you control not just your emotions, you control the emotional climate around you. Your calm becomes contagious. Your stillness becomes strength. And your presence becomes power. So stop explaining your every move. Stop revealing every plan. Stop giving away your next step. Move in silence. React with calculation. Express with purpose. Let them wonder. Let them misread. Let them underestimate. Because in silence you build leverage. In calm, you build control. And in unreadability, you build indestructible power. You've learned to protect your energy. You've learned to master your emotions. You've learned to become unreadable. Now it's time for the final transformation, where silence becomes influence and composure becomes leadership. Chapter 10, Quiet Power, the Final Discipline. Silent power is not about hiding. It's about harnessing. Harnessing your energy. Harnessing your focus. Harnessing your strength with precision and purpose. Because the truth is this, you will win more by doing less. You will gain more by speaking less. You will achieve more by controlling yourself than by trying to control the world. Quiet power isn't passive. It's not withdrawal. It's containment. It's the discipline to move only when it matters. To speak only when it counts. To act only when it's time. That's mastery. That's control. That's the final discipline. The world glorifies noise. It rewards the loud, the dramatic, the constantly visible. But power doesn't need an audience. Power doesn't perform. Power doesn't shout. It moves quietly and changes everything. Look at history. The most dangerous people are never the ones yelling. They are the ones observing, calculating, waiting, acting when others least expect it. Because they understand this law. Energy conserved is energy multiplied. Every unnecessary word weakens your presence. Every emotional outburst drains your power. Every impulsive action leaks energy that could have built empires. Quiet power is about sealing those leaks. It's about becoming airtight, composed, deliberate, untouchable. When you reach this level, your silence speaks louder than any speech. Your calm presence unsettles the insecure. Your restraint frustrates the emotional. And your patience outlasts the impulsive. You no longer chase validation. You no longer react to noise. You no longer need to prove your strength, because your strength proves itself. That's the essence of quiet power. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It forces attention through composure. Here's what most people never understand. Discipline is louder than expression. Control is louder than chaos. Stillness is louder than noise. When you walk into a room with calm energy, people feel it. They sense that you don't need to speak to own the space. You don't need to explain to be understood. You don't need to move fast to make impact. That's the paradox. Quiet power dominates without aggression. It influences without effort. It leads without announcing itself. Because people trust what is stable. And you cannot be stable until you are still. Quiet power is the combination of everything you've built so far. The observation from Chapter 1. The emotional control from Chapter 2. The silence from Chapter 3. The detachment, patience, discipline, all of it comes together here. Quiet power is the point where mastery becomes presence. Where restraint becomes aura. Where calm becomes command. It's the moment where nothing shakes you, not opinions, not chaos, not fear. Because you finally understand, control yourself, and you control the game. Repeat that, control yourself, and you control the game. Say it again. Control yourself, and you control the game. That is your closing mantra. That is the law that separates the strong from the weak, the disciplined from the distracted. But don't mistake quiet power for indifference. It's not that you don't care, it's that you care strategically. You care in ways that produce growth, not reaction. You care in ways that protect peace, not ego. Quiet power is emotional maturity in its highest form. It's wisdom in motion. It's knowing that your response is your weapon and choosing not to use it until it matters. You start seeing life as chess, not checkers. You start thinking in decades, not days. You start valuing timing over talking. That's what separates impulsive people from powerful people: patience, precision, poise. You must train your mind for restraint. When you want to react, pause. When you want to prove, hold still. When you want to fight, breathe. Because every time you resist impulse, you strengthen your discipline. Every time you stay silent, you sharpen your edge. Every time you let go of the need to be seen, you grow into someone worth noticing. That's the art of quiet power: winning without noise, building without validation, controlling without control. And here's the ultimate truth. The person who controls themselves controls everything around them. Because self-control radiates. It sets the tone in every environment. It dictates the pace in every interaction. It commands respect without words. That's real influence. Quiet power doesn't mean you avoid conflict. It means you choose your battles. You understand that not every fire deserves your water. Not every insult deserves your voice. Not every challenge deserves your energy. You pick the fights that matter. You let go of the ones that don't. And because of that, you always have the strength for what counts. While others exhaust themselves reacting, you conserve power. While others waste energy arguing, you prepare. And when the time comes, when movement is required, you act with precision. One move. Decisive. Effective. That's how quiet power wins, through timing, not tension. Repeat this truth again. Control yourself, and you control the game. Not the world, not other people, yourself. That's the only control that matters. Because everything else, attention, respect, success, flows from that source. You can't control others. You can't control the future. But you can control your response, your tone, your patience, your peace. And that's where the real advantage lives. Because while everyone else is playing to be seen, you're playing to win, quietly, steadily, intentionally. So as you reach the end of this journey, remember, the strongest presence is calm. The loudest statement is silence. The greatest control is self-control. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to rush to succeed. You don't have to react to prove your power. You just have to own yourself, your focus, your energy, your peace. That's the final discipline. That's the summit of mastery. That's the art of silent power. So from this day forward, walk slower, speak less, listen more, react never. Let your silence intimidate. Let your calm guide you. Let your restraint protect you. Because when you master yourself, you master the room. You master the game. You master your life. Repeat it one last time. Control yourself, and you control the game. That's the secret. That's the discipline. That's quiet power. End of The Art of Silent Power. Win without showing emotion. You've now learned the art of silent power, but knowledge means nothing without discipline. Every reaction you control, every emotion you master, every silence you hold, build strength no one can see, but everyone can feel. Remember this, power doesn't shout. It watches. It waits. It moves only when it must. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to win arguments. You only need to win yourself. The world will always test your calm. Let it. Because when you stop reacting, you stop bleeding power. And when you stop bleeding power, you become untouchable. Your challenge, starting today, speak less. React slower. Move deliberately. Master silence. And watch how the world begins to follow your stillness.